Aaron said, let's talk, I want you to talk about something near and dear to what we do for a living, and that is what's going on with the materials in the new vehicles. And I was preparing for this, and I live in the Detroit area, so I went to Jeff Conroy, who owns a collision repair shop called Quality Coach Collision in the Detroit area, in Birmingham, Michigan. And I said, I'm talking about the new materials and what's going to happen in automotive. What do you think? Do you care about that? He said, yeah, I do, actually. I want to know what's happening with the material mix, but more importantly, I know why. What's going on and why is that changing? So my presentation is going to try to walk you through some of that material. So, what's happening with materials? There's a lot of mega trends that we've talked about. First and most important, I think, safety and the regulatory environment are key drivers as to what's happening with materials. And a subset of that is lightweighting. So the vehicles have to be lightweighted, mainly to meet fuel economy and the regulatory environment for CO2 pipe emissions coming out of the vehicles. This is a phenomenon certainly that's happening with the North American producers of autos as well as globally. It's all the same. So greenhouse gases is a big deal. The automotive industry has this weight put on its shoulders, and lightweighting is one of the solutions that is at the OEM's disposal to do that. There's other ways that they get at it and other levers they can use to get at this, including electrification of the powertrain. So you are seeing a move toward electric vehicles in the forecast period. The next 15 years, certainly in my lifetime, it's going to be below 10% of the vehicles that are produced in North America are going to be full battery electric vehicles. So it's coming, but it's evolving. And we don't need to run away and hide based on electric powertrains coming too quickly in the near future. So these levers include material mix in terms of how they want to lightweight the vehicles. I mentioned it's a regulation-driven and somewhat safety-driven phenomenon. So you hear discussions in and around the Trump administration is pulling back on regulations. What's going to happen? It is being reviewed. But the bottom line is, in our discussions with OEMs, and how they're going to get at this lightweighting phenomenon, they're not going to change their mind. One of the main drivers of that is vehicles produced today, almost 50% of them go on global platforms. So they build a car, it's designed and engineered in North America. It's going to go on global platforms all over the world. As I mentioned earlier, this idea of fuel economy and CO2 emissions is a global one. So you look at regulations, they're everywhere. They're in Asia, they're in China, they're in Europe, and they're all kind of coming to this harmonization. So even if they pull back the regulation in the US, what the OEMs tell us is they're moving forward. They're going to continue to lightweight these vehicles. Lightweighting comes at a cost, and the materials that you see today, steel being the dominant material, and it's not going to change in the next 15 or 20 years. But there's a mix. There's aluminum, there's magnesium, there's various forms of composites that come at a cost. And one of the ways the OEMs try to decide what they're going to do and how they're going to do it is kind of this, how much they'll pay derived from pound of weight saved on the vehicle. And then the other issues of finding a supplier to make the parts, ready for automotive OEM vehicle production, et cetera, is there. But these things are taking place, and the material mix is changing. But you got to get the car sold and be competitive at the same time. So it's evolving, and you don't see the prices going up. You heard a lot about the Ford F-150, aluminum intensive, body in white enclosures on that vehicle, the cage and some of the hang parts. When they were designing that vehicle, multi-material mix based on the difficulty of joining dissimilar materials, a steel to an aluminum, for example, wasn't really solved. And I would argue that one of the reasons that the F-150 was so aluminum intensive with the body and white enclosures is the joining. Aluminum to aluminum made it a lot easier than trying to join aluminum to steel. The trend that we're seeing now is what they're calling mixed materials. The right material, the right alloy, the right part at the right, for the right vehicle, for the right application. These are some examples of current production vehicles that are just coming in line, but you can see a material mix. So advancements from the adhesives companies, from the joining companies with mechanical joining, et cetera. There's a lot of solutions that are applied to the mix now to allow the joining of dissimilar materials to get the right part on the right vehicle at the right time. And the other thing that the OEMs and the suppliers are working toward is how they do material substitution. And we're evolving into a level 2. Level 1 being part for part. I'm gonna substitute a steel hood for an aluminum hood. That's a one-to-one part. That's level 1, and a lot of that has kind of run its course. You've seen a lot of that taken advantage of by the OEMs. Level 2 is you got several stamp parts that make up a subframe, for example, and you could do one shot as a casting to take that and make it into a similar part. So more holistic weight savings is where we are now, and that's where the designers are, getting at trying to save weight and do this with mixed materials. Level 3 will be complete redesign of the material itself. So Gorilla Glass for the windshield or even the side lights on a vehicle being looked at, and these kind of technologies are going to come. So what does it all mean? This is our most recent forecast from data that just in the field, so it's very current of where the material mix is today and where it's going in the next 5 and 10 years over time. So yes, there's going to be a change. There's going to be a change in alloys. There's going to be a change in mix, but the materials that we're using today, steel and various grades of steel, and that's evolving. Aluminum, magnesium, carbon fiber, all these materials exist today and are used in automotive production. The mix of those are going to change pretty significantly. But as you can see, steel will still be the dominant material on the vehicles in foreseeable future and certainly within our lifetime. So the tools and how you repair those vehicles today is going to change. The mix is going to change and what's going to be there, but there's nothing revolutionary going to happen to take us into the future. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.